Hello and welcome to WMT Reviews 12 Nights of Halloween. I am Wiseman Tanofsky. People love a good campfire story, don't they? Especially at this time of year. The idea of crowding around a bonfire, holding a torch up to your face and telling a creepy urban myth that could be completely true or could be made up on the spot. But the atmosphere always draws everyone in, and when you come to that big scare at the end, it almost always gets the reaction you were looking for. A tent full of kids that aren't going to sleep that night. It's the mystery surrounding these stories that gives them their edge and their appeal. The fact that they could be true and you just don't know for sure. And more often than not, the ones that fail are the ones that are too out there, too supernatural, not grounded enough in reality to draw in the audience. But what happens when the mystery isn't enough? What happens when someone wants to know for certain if Bloody Mary will appear behind them if they just repeat her name 3 times in a mirror, unsatisfied with just the thrill of not knowing? That way of thinking was tackled in a film adaptation of that very same myth, with 1992's thriller Candyman, a film which dealt in the mystery of urban legends and the consequences for those who delve too greedily and too deep in search of their truth. With one of Tony Todd's most iconic roles as the ominous Candyman himself, Candyman sprung from the mind of legendary horror writer Clive Barker, the man behind the Hellraiser series. And like that series, it deals directly with the dangers of over-exploring the myths and legends of the world around us. It's an intriguing and nerve-wracking adventure of dark discovery, and it's the film we're taking a look at tonight. This is Candyman. So, what's the story? Well, Virginia Madsen plays grad student Helen Lyle, who decides to write a thesis on local myths and legends. Investigating a rough area of town, she begins to uncover the legend of the Candyman, the spirit of a murdered slave with a hook for a hand, who appears if you say his name 5 times in a mirror. Not believing the stories, of course, Helen does just that. And before too long, the Candyman, played by Tony Todd, does indeed come for her, as a series of bloody murders start to occur in the area. In the process, a baby is abducted, and the Candyman promises to release it if Helen will sacrifice herself to feed his legacy, planning on killing them both off, as he lures her to the centre of a bonfire in the middle of town. While Helen is able to save the baby from the blaze, she burns to death. At her funeral, however, her husband chants her name in mourning, causing her vengeful spirit to appear and murder him with the Candyman's hook, having become the new embodiment of the myth. Candyman is the inevitable result of a world filled with urban myths. The core of human nature is curiosity. We cannot just let things lie. We have to know for certain if what we're being told is true, and that reflects well in the film. The fact that this killer cannot target you unless you disbelieve the myth so much that you actually go and say his name 5 times, make it a truly unique form of slasher villain, a monster that can't hurt you unless you go looking for it. There is also a cold look at gang culture in the area, as a group of troublesome youths use the Candyman myth to spread fear among the residents of Cabrini Green, with one of them even pretending to be the Candyman himself. The setting of a housing project gripped in violent gang crime really does provide an atmosphere of fear. It doesn't need to be a supernatural force that kills you here. Just say the wrong thing or look at someone the wrong way and you can end up with a knife in you. So let's have a look at the Candyman himself, portrayed fantastically by Tony Todd. This guy has a presence which just fills every scene. You can't take your eyes off his hypnotic performance. Everything from his costume to that eerie and sinister voice. The Candyman kills in order to further his own legend and keep his name whispered around classrooms, as he explains to Helen when he finally comes for her. In order to prevent his name from falling into obscurity, every so often he relies on some hapless fool calling out his name, in order to inject a little realism into the myth. This truly is a new and original take on a slasher villain. It's easy to stumble upon Jason Voorhees if you happen to go camping in Crystal Lake, or to simply be in the wrong place at the wrong time while Michael Myers is in town. But Candyman is something new. You're protected against him as long as you keep an open mind, and don't go saying his name 5 times. Todd delivers an excellent performance as the man with a hook for a hand. Like Divoff in Wishmaster, it really does feel like this was the role he was born to play, and it really holds the film together as a cohesive whole. So how do the rest of the cast hold up? Well, if we're being honest here, not as well as Todd. in a sense that I don't find their characters as likeable as his. Virginia Madsen does well to portray her skeptical grad student character very well, and as she slowly descends into madness, or what appears to be madness, she portrays that brilliantly. She delivers her dialogue very believably, and you really do get invested in her struggle as her world begins to fall apart around her. She seems to be losing her mind, she loses her husband, it all goes horribly wrong. And all the time she's questioning, am I just mad? Did I kill those people? Am I getting too mixed up in all of this? What the hell is going on? The problem I have with these characters is the same as I have with many side characters in horror films. They are so stupid. You end up rooting for Candyman to show up and kill these buggers. If someone told you that that button over there would end the world, would you press it? Sure, they could be making it all up, but what if they're not? Do you really want to be responsible for the end of the world just because you didn't believe what was being said to you? And that's my problem with these characters. Someone tells you that if you say this guy's name 5 times in a mirror, then he'll pop up and kill you. The one thing you don't do is go and say his name in a mirror. And they go and do it. Well, you know what? You deserve to die. The rest of the supporting cast are pretty passable. I liked Vanessa Williams' character quite a lot. She was brilliant in that scene where she just lunges violently at Helen when her baby goes missing. Now there is a believable performance. She will do anything to get her baby back. The gang were done quite well too, touching on a very subtle race element no doubt spawned from early 90s paranoia, but it wasn't all up in your face. Because obviously gangs formed of teens are all from the same ethnic background. Why are they so believable? Well, a little bit of trivia for you, they're real. Yup, those are actual members of the ruling gang of Cabrini Green. The producers had to make a deal with the gang in order to film there, and they still put a bullet in the side of their van on the last day of filming. Charming area. To be honest, while I may not like a lot of the characters in this film due to their general lack of genre-savvy behaviour, the whole cast puts out a great performance which stands out among so many other slasher films filmed with actors who were clearly chosen for the size of their chest and their willingness to appease the directors. Candyman is not your conventional slasher flick. There's no unstoppable killing machine chasing after a bunch of half-naked morons through an abandoned theme park or something like that. It deals with something far more frightening. The fear of the unknown, the fear of uncertainty. You tell yourself this is all just made up, and for a while you start to think that maybe this isn't the real Candyman, just some guy dressed up like him, like the gang leader. And then you begin to wonder about Helen and the state of her mind. Could she just be getting too engrossed in all of these myths, and genuinely herself be the killer? Similar to Patrick Bateman in American Psycho, is this all part of some deranged fantasy she's created for herself? Only this time, she is the one killing people, and she's imagining it to be the Candyman. But I tell you what, you still don't go up to a mirror and say the Candyman's name 5 times. But as the film draws to its climactic conclusion, you do begin to piece it all together. And the payoff really doesn't let you down. The only thing that really does a little bit for me is that last scene. It does feel a touch unnecessary, and it raised a few more questions than the earlier scenes answered. So, is she the Candyman now? Has she taken his place? Does that happen with all his victims? Is Tony Todd's character just the last person who was claimed by the Candyman entity and it took on his form, and now it's her? I don't know, man. I think it just pulled one too many rugs out from one too many sets of feet. Overall, Candyman is a great film. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it, and I would recommend it to any fans of psychological horrors. Films based not around body counts and gore, but the suspense of reality, the question of the unknown, and the consequences of sticking your nose in just a little too far. That being said, there was quite a lot of bloody violence going on, but the violence was subtle and well utilised, leading up to some genuinely exciting scares. That massacre in the apartment with the decapitated dog, oh my god, was that unsettling. Todd's performance simply steals the show and creates a truly frightening monster who doesn't spout one-liners and pop culture references, but is just out there to make sure his name is never forgotten. The effects are well utilised and believable, relying on a balance of practical effect and physical performances, and those bees were incredible. It would have been so much easier for them to just knock up some digital bees, but going all out and actually breeding them. Oh, it provided a much creepier and uncomfortable effect. Mouthful of bees, though, what some people will do for their art. And I think this film earns itself a strong 7.5 on the Orsometer. It's a genuinely unnerving bit of film, bolstered by some standout performances, a relatable topic, and some fantastic practical effects. A damn fine bit of filmmaking. So that's a 7.5 on the Orsometer for Candyman. I've been Wiseman Tanofsky. This has been WMT Reviews 12 Nights of Halloween. Thank you very much for listening.